Hi, I'm Kathleen Hamilton. I'm from KathleenHamiltonMemoir.com, and I'm the creator of A Deeper Truth Memoir programs. And this is the second day, day 2 of the 12 gifts of memoir. And yesterday I shared with you the first gift of memoir, and that was the gift of being heard, understood, and liked. And today I'm going to talk about the second gift. Hi, Barbara. Welcome. So today I'm going to talk about the second gift, and I'm talking about the gifts that the writer receives from having written. The gifts that she receives from going through the process of writing. And I'm sharing this from my perspective as, someone who's a published author myself, and somebody who's quite dedicated to writing memoir. And for what I see from my perspective, from having seen what happens with the women that I coach, and mentor to write their own deeper truth stories. So I'm not talking about the gifts that the reader receives. I'm talking about the gifts that the writer receives. And I'm kind of taking a stand here for writers to be selfish and acknowledge that we might like to be rewarded for our work. Hi, Ronnie. Hi, Amanda. Oh, Laurie. Hi, Laurie. Are you on the island or are you in Toronto? Hi, Steve. What we might want to know is what's in it for us to write memoir. Because we know that it's going to be difficult. We know that we're going to have to go into some scary places. We know that we're taking some risks. So what are the rewards? And from the outside, we know that it's a very meaningful experience when we read memoir. But what does the writer get out of it? And so I'm just wanting to give all of us permission to, kind of have, to be looking out for ourselves in that way, and to give ourselves permission to receive the benefits that are there for us. So yesterday was my first Facebook Live ever, and I went live on my 57th birthday. And thank you for your birthday wishes. They really made me feel very seen and shy, and it was very sweet. Thank you. So if you watched day 1, you'll know that before I went live, I received the phone call with the news that my mother-in-law had a fatal heart attack. And so I'm dedicating these 12 gifts of memoir to her. Her name is Doris Boulay. And I want to just take a minute before I go into the gift and just share with you what that dedication means, because I think that it will be of value to you. And here's the thing that I really want you to get, because I'm really just so wanting to take this in myself as well, because I think that we need to. When I got the call and was told that she had died, I thought about abandoning this little project that I had set for myself, and to do the 12 gifts online, because I was the only one who knew that I was going to do it. So it would have been very easy to just abandon it. I could very easily have done that. And I'm curious to know if you would type in the comments, if you've ever had it happen where you made a commitment to yourself to do something that felt kind of important to you. For whatever reason, you felt an inner calling to do it, an inner knowing that it was the right thing for you to do. And, maybe it was you had just decided to take a workshop, or maybe you decided, to finally book the tickets for a trip that you've always wanted to take. Maybe you decided to start your new business or start writing your book. But something that was a bit scary, but that you knew that was right for you to do, and you had made a commitment to yourself. Yes, now I'm doing it. And then something happened. Has that ever happened to you? I'm curious to know, so something happens and you very rightly could say, well, now I can't do it. It's not the right time. I'm not ready. I'll do it some other time. I'll do it someday. Has that ever happened to you? So something happens, and maybe it's not a death, but it's some kind of upset, some kind of upheaval or disruption, or some kind of change, and you say, well, I can't do it now. If you would write in the comments if you've ever done this, because I certainly have. But for some reason, the news of Doris's death on my 57th birthday kind of shone this bright light for me on the fact that we don't know if we'll get another time. This is our time. And I felt like that was Doris's message to me. And I just wanted to share it with you. That if you have a calling, if you have something in you that wants to be expressed, if you have a story to tell, or if you have an inner knowing about something that you need to do it. It's actually urgent. People think, I'll write a book someday. But if you have a calling, it's actually a life and death matter. For you to write your story, or for you to get those airline tickets, or sign up for that class, or share that message, because you don't know that you'll have another time. You don't know how much later there is. I don't know why I can't see any comments on my screen, but could you write something to me so that I know that the comments work? Just maybe I'm here, or some comment. I don't know. The comments were working yesterday when I did this, but I don't see that they're working today. Anyways, I will continue on. In my programs, I guide women through the process of writing and rewriting their deeper truth stories. And they talk about the sense of relief that they get from writing. And I think that that's because there's an urgency inside. There's a pressure, a pain, actually, from bearing their untold story and inside them. And that's the quote from the late Maya Angelou, isn't it? She said, there's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. So there's a great relief to write that story. But the pain, actually, here's the flip side of that. The pain of holding our deeper truth inside. Well, it's amazing to me. Maybe you can relate to this, but it's amazing to me how much pain and discomfort we can actually tolerate. So the pressure can build and build gradually inside us, and we can just choose to tolerate it. We can choose to wait. But I guess I'm just wanting to say that just because you can bear the pain, just because you are able to tolerate the agony of holding what's inside you, of keeping it there, just because you can tolerate it doesn't mean that you should. You know, death teaches us that we must not wait. And we must not believe that our inner callings, that our inner knowings can wait or be ignored. I think that death teaches us that telling our story is actually urgent. And, you know, I just feel like that is a truth, a teaching, a lesson that bears repeating. You know, death is a reality. We don't have forever. And, you know, my dad died when I was only 3 years old. And I think so all my life, I've just always been kind of aware that we're only here temporarily. And oftentimes I've asked myself, if I were on my deathbed now, what would I regret not doing? Because they do say it's not, they do say that it's what you don't do that you regret. It's what you don't do that you regret. Okay, so yeah, that's our lesson from Doris. So thank you, Doris. Love be your way. And for all of those who have been and are near and dear to us who have passed, love be your way. Yeah, so I'm still not seeing any comments. So I guess I'll just circle around and see what they are, see your comments afterwards. I will acknowledge them afterward. I don't know why I can't see them right now. So I'm sorry that I can't, I can't really respond to them as we go. I'll see if I can figure that out another time. So for the rest of you, what I want to talk about today is I want to share the second gift of memoir. And again, what I'm talking about is the gift to the writer. So we all know the gifts to the reader, right? Like the reader of a good memoir gets to feel less alone. You know, she gets to understand more deeply what it means to be human. She gets to gain compassion, and she gets to learn more about how to live and what it means to be human, because she recognizes herself in the story. And it's funny because it's true that recognition takes place even if the situation that the writer, even if the situation in the writer's story is very different from that of the reader still recognizes herself. The truth still resonates because the personal is universal. And so there are many very meaningful benefits to the reader of memoir. And that's why personal, intimate stories are in such demand. But what are the benefits? What are the rewards? What are the gifts to the writer? And what does the writer receive in return for all of her work and for being so vulnerable and so generous in recreating her experience on the page? And now another caveat, I'm not saying that these gifts that I'm sharing with you, these gifts are not the reason why we write memoir. That's a very different and very juicy discussion. But these are the gifts that the writer receives when she follows her why, her big why, and actually writes. These are the rewards that she was probably not even expecting. And you know what I mean? Like the elixir that the hero returns with after her hero's journey, after the artist's journey, returns with these gifts, returns home to herself with these gifts. And I just want to use myself as an example, talking about, oh, good, I do see a comment. Thank you, Ronnie. Yes, absolutely. So, yes, life is short. And this is a good reminder to you of why you finally began to write. Yes, absolutely. Oh, good. Thank you. And when you feel the need to write something, it hounds you until you put it on paper. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you so much for posting. Oh, and hearts too. Okay, so it really is working. Awesome. So I wanted to give you an example of sort of like the difference between a big, like a why, a motivating why, and the gifts that we receive. Okay, so for myself, when I started writing my current memoir, I had, like, one of my main motivations was to set the record straight. Because for decades, my parents had told a story about my childhood that really bothered me. And of course, I had no voice as a child because we're conditioned to stay silent when we're children, right? We allow the voices of the adults, the powerful ones, to tell a story. And that just kind of gets entrenched. So even when we become adults who, you know, could use our voices, sometimes our voice just gets stuck in there. And so I hadn't used my voice. I hadn't told my story. I hadn't told my version. And there came a time when it became unbearable not to, and not to set the record straight. So that could be one of the many reasons that someone writes memoir. But whatever the writer's why, and my why has changed over time, that is very normal for your why to change. But it's in my writing programs, we spend you know, a fair bit of time connecting with our why and then reconnecting with it, because it does fuel us and help us to focus on our themes. And yeah, so my why has changed, but that was my why when I started. That's what galvanized me and got me working in the first place. But regardless of your reason why, regardless of the reason why, there are many beautiful, exquisite, and surprising gifts that come when we write memoir, and we receive those in return for writing. And it's like you have to go through the journey of doing the work, of doing the writing, in order to get these gifts, of course. So the second gift that I want to talk about today is validation. Validation. So let's feel into that for a minute. What does it feel like to be validated, to have your experience validated? So that's the second gift of memoir, is validation. And I just need to adjust something in my workspace for 1 second. You'll just give me a moment while I'm doing this. So So I just wanted to speak into that piece about validation and let you know what I mean by that and just unpack it a little bit. Um, so validation has to do with the response of others. And we're social creatures. How other people respond to us is important, whether we want it to be or not. It really is. And so, yes, validation is about response. And we cannot receive validation from other people. We cannot receive response from other people unless we actually put our deeper truth out there in a form that other people can receive. So, I mean, obviously, the most powerful demonstration of validation in the culture right now is the Me Too movement. And, a woman puts her truth out there, and the response that she gets, may not bring her justice, probably will not bring her justice. But she does get validated. She does get to hear, yes, I believe you. Yes, that's how it was for me too. And it doesn't matter what the theme of your story is. It doesn't have to be about abuse. It could be, yes, that's how it was when you lost your best friend. That's how it was when you were 16 and didn't yet have breasts. Yes, I get it. That's how it was when you were pregnant, when you were 13 and you didn't even know what that meant. And that validation, that response, that gift of someone saying, yes, of course, that makes perfect sense. That kind of validation, of course, that's how it shapes you. Of course, you developed a shoplifting habit. That was me. Of course, you felt guilty about not taking your parents' advice, and so on. When you write a deeper truth memoir, you receive that kind of deeper response, that you receive that validation. Even if it's a laugh of recognition at the absurdity or the irony of a situation that you have described in your story. So you get that validation from the people who hear you and read you. And I do want to qualify this, okay, because I do believe, and probably a number of us have learned this the hard way too. I think this quote might come from the Bible. Do not cast your pearls before swine. So what I'm saying here is that we do have to be very discerning, discriminating about who gets to receive our deeper truth. In what situations is it a safe and supportive environment in which to do that? So, for instance, in my workshops, that's a safe, supportive environment for women to write and read aloud their deeper truths and be validated and not violated. Similarly, if you are working on memoir, whether it would be for the page or the stage, and you work with a coach or you work with an editor to shape your story and to take care to to write it in such a way that it is deeply meaningful and well crafted, and that you've really done your work to recreate your experience on the page, then when it's done, it is ready to be received by readers, and it will reach the audience that most needs to receive it, and who will appreciate it and most recognize the truth of it. So yeah, you have to practice discernment. And again, it's not that the reader needs to have experienced anything similar. You know, when you do a good job of recreating your experience on the page, the reader, you know, your story will find the readers who will say, like, wow, you know, like, that story really opened my eyes, or that story really resonated with me. You know, I never understood childhood PTSD before, but now I do. And thank you for your story. That, you know, I felt the truth of it. So that's the validation. And, you know, as human beings, we have, like, our need for our deeper truth to be validated. That runs very deep in us. It's a very human need. And I'll just tell you, I'll give you an example of that. Like, in my, oh, Greta, thank you. That means a lot to me. So now what was I saying? I'll compliment it. Oh yeah, I wanted to tell you the story about a woman who I've been working with on her memoir for some time now. Actually, her stories are in this book. She has 3 stories in this book. And when I'm showing you this book, by the way, this book was traditionally published by the Acorn Press, a small publisher. And so as editor, I will receive, I think, 5% of royalties after all of their expenses are paid. So, in other words, never, right? But I still want you to read this book. I still want you to get this book and read it, because I think you will love the stories, and I think you'll be very inspired by them. And it's a beautiful, beautiful book. I really want to give a shout out to Terry Lee Bulger and her team at Acorn Press, because they've just done a beautiful, gorgeous job with this book. I'm just so pleased with it. And so proud of the writers. And I have 2 stories inside here too. Be very pleased if you would read them. So anyway, yeah, so one of the writers in the workshop wrote a story. And in the story, you know, she's revealed, the narrator has revealed to the reader that she was sexually abused as a child by her mom's boyfriend, over and over again. And now that she's an adult, she is reflecting on that experience, and she's actually saying in her piece that there's a part of her that wishes, because he took photographs of her when she was a little girl, there's a part of her who wishes that he would post those photos online so that she would have proof that it really happened. She would have undeniable proof. She would have that validation. And I know that some of us in the workshop felt shocked to hear that, because, like, that seems like the most horrible thing, you know, to have photos like that posted. But we totally understood, like, that deep-seated need for validation, especially, I mean, we do anyways, but especially about experiences that happen to us when we're a child, because, you know, when you're a child, you can have experiences, and other people, you have experiences, you see and you hear things with your own eyes, with your own ears, you feel them with your own body. And yet other people, the culture, your parents, tell you something different. They tell you a different story about it. And that creates actually a condition called cognitive dissonance. I suffered from that for a long time because when I was a child, I had a stepfather who was physically violent and sadistic. Yet my mother always said that he was a good man. She would tell me that, and she would tell everyone that. So it made me feel kind of crazy. And so there are many ways in which that happens to us because we don't live in a culture that values the truth. So, you know, like my example or the example of the writer that I just showed you, that might sound extreme to you, but there's a whole spectrum of truth, of experience that gets disqualified. You know, Gandhi said that there is no God higher than the truth. But I really feel like, you know, we've got a long way to go before we embody that as a culture. You know, we don't live in a culture that values the truth. So there are lots of ways, what I'm saying is that there are lots of ways that we saw the color red and we were told that it was blue, you know, and we were told, or we were told, no, you don't talk about the color red. You know, it's not interesting, or it's not real, or it's not nice, or it's not important enough, the color red. We don't talk about red. Red is too private. You know, if you write about red, it might hurt someone's feelings. And, you know, it might just like break the whole world if you write about that time that you had an experience with the color red, right? So when you do write about what happened that time that you experienced the color red, you saw the color red and you write about it. You write about, you know, what it felt like to you and what you were doing at the time and what led up to it and how it shaped you. And, you know, maybe what it felt like in your body when you saw the color red, and you know, what it feels like to actually have the courage or just the busting need to write about the color red when everybody else tells you that it's blue. You know, or worse, who do you think you are to write about the color red? You can't write red. So when you do have the courage to write your deeper truth story, you do receive the gift of validation. And because your readers, here's what happens, your readers will read you. If you've done your job well, your readers will read you and they'll say, yes, of course, red, obviously, red. Or me too, right? Or yes, that's how it was. Um, and also, again, like, yes, thank you for showing me. Thank you for recreating your experience on the page so that when I read it, I felt like I experienced it myself. And now I understand. You know, now my understanding of the world and what it means to be human has broadened and deepened. And for that, people are grateful to you. And that's a validation too. So, yeah. So that is the second gift of writing memoir, the gift of validation. And I just want to say too, if you like, if you have any questions at all about writing memoir, or any questions for me personally, or any, insights or aha moments that you want to share, if you want to write them in the comments, that would be awesome. And I'm just going to stay on just for a minute to see if you do write anything. And also just to say, if you want to, if you're watching the replay and you want to write me a comment, I would love, love, love that. And I will circle around and read your comment and acknowledge it. And it might help me with the next several gifts of memoir too. So my plan is to come on every day and do a Facebook Live on a different gift. So today was the second gift, the gift of validation. And hi, Beth. I'm just wrapping up, so I encourage you to watch the replay. And yeah. And so I just want to say to you, thank you for being here. And I hope you will not wait. Don't wait. The time is now. Your time is now. Okay. Good night. I will see you tomorrow. Give me a comment. Give me a comment in the replay too. I will come back. All right. Bye-bye.